This is the first season in its 137-year history that the top flight does not contain a side beginning with the letter W. The Premier League is back, so let's try and predict the future as on Friday night Arsenal get us underway against Coventry City. I mean, getting promoted is one thing. You're going to have difficult fixtures. So on one hand, it's good to get it over and done with perhaps, but you want to have a chance at putting something on the board in your first game, don't you? I'm not so sure they've got one. Arsenal are unbeaten in their last 45 home matches against promoted sides. Meanwhile, Coventry are back in the Premier League after 25 years out of it, which is the biggest gap in Premier League history. Now, obviously, this can be beaten in future, as there are sides who have had a longer stay outside the top flight, but they've got to get back in it to end that stay. So 25 years is now the longest between a team being in the Premier League, going out and then coming back, and that now belongs to Coventry City, who have broken their own transfer record 4 times during the summer. It's hard to see anything but a home win. I appreciate it's boring predicting an Arsenal win, but I'd rather give my honest predictions than try and be edgy or controversial or rage baiting or anything like that. I'm sure there's someone out there going 1-0 Coventry, and probably a Coventry fan, and do you know what? That's allowed. I would love that and I can get behind that, but I ain't doing it. Arsenal have got a settled side. Yes, they're missing Saliba. Mosquera will be fine for this game. Signing Konsa will be a fantastic one. Bruno coming into midfield. Solis out on that left-hand side. They've just got an abundance of talent, Arsenal. This is a very, very difficult fixture for Coventry. This is going to be really patronising, but I think if they can get out of the Emirates with a low-scoring defeat, I think it's a good result for them in the long term. Just get out of there, damage limitation, and I think it's going to finish Arsenal 2, Coventry City 0. Now it's time for you guys to get involved. Down below in the description and in the pinned comment section, there's a list of all the Premier League fixtures. Copy, paste, give me your score prediction, because whoever gets the most points, it's 3 points for a correct score, 1 point for a correct outcome. Whoever gives me the most points will win a prize next week, so get involved. Also, if you're new to Tartan, please do subscribe. I've been crap at uploading throughout the summer. Well, it was really good during the World Cup. Post-World Cup, until now, I've been pretty rubbish. But I'm back. I'm back in my routine. Plus, Mrs. Gio works in a school, so she's been off for 6 weeks. This is her 5th week off. Last week's her last one. Oh, I cannot wait for her to return to work. And baby Gio going back to nursery. So in 2 weeks' time, Monday to Friday, it's going to be bliss. I'm going to get so much work done. Hull City against Man United on Saturday lunchtime kickoff. Hull, first team in 16 years to finish 6th in the Championship and be promoted via the playoffs. Coming up against a Man United side who had the 3rd best away record in the Premier League last season since Michael Carrick took over. They accrued the most points in the Premier League, scoring a lot of goals as well. Maybe not as difficult as Coventry, but a very difficult fixture for Hull City, this one. A good one for Man United, perhaps, because I'm just not convinced by Carrick. Now, this is a season-long thing, but I don't really have much to go on here. Just not convinced by them. I like the business of Tielemans and Santos, so I think that'll make a really good pairing in midfield. Unsure why they're splashing 55 million on Baliba. Could be Manu needs more opportunities anyway. I think he'll get them, though, under Carrick. They probably do need another central midfielder, but I just feel like it could be better spent elsewhere. Strongly linked to Lewis Hall would be a good signing. Hull, I was going to say I'm looking forward to watching this game. I'm not watching it. Normally I would. I'll get to watch the Arsenal Coventry one. I'll get to watch the Sunday games. I'm going to have to split my attention between the Premier League and the Championship from now on. So I'm probably going to be watching a Championship game at lunchtime on Saturday rather than watching Hull Man United. But anyone watching that game might be watching a Championship team. Bit harsh on Man U maybe, but that's how I feel. I'm going to say Hull City 1. I think, no, I like backing promoted teams at home for their first home game of the season. They're going to have that energy. They're going to have that enthusiasm. The home fans are going to be up for it. And that can give you an advantage. And I think if Hull were playing other teams in the Premier League, like if Hull were playing Fulham, for example, I might go for a home win. but they're not. I'm going to say Hull City 1, Man United 2. Everton at home to Crystal Palace. A lot of new managers in the league. Not had one yet, but we've got one here at Crystal Palace as Sage takes charge of his first game of the Eagles. 9 new managers in the Premier League this season, which is just ridiculous. 9 out of 20 just feels silly. And I still think during the first international break, we will see at least one managerial change. A lot of trigger-happy chairmans at the minute. Everton still not got a bloody right back. Spent a bit of money though, and I do like the business they've done so far with Hackney, Norgard, but they still need a bloody right back. And if they don't get one, then the transfer window's been a failure. Really need to improve. It went really stale at the end of the season. Everton were in a good position for European football and really shot themselves in the foot. Football, not enjoyable to watch. Results, not enjoyable. You've got to do one or the other. Either entertain or justify the lack of entertainment with your results. And it just feels a bit stale at Everton already. Crystal Palace, a bit of an unknown quantity. But Sage could be... Now, I've had to check this because this feels wrong, but it's right. Sage could be just the 3rd Crystal Palace manager to win his first game in charge. And this includes caretaker managers. So there's only been 2 that have won, 4 have drawn, and 10 have lost their first game in charge. Palace got 53% of their points away from home last season, which was the highest, 3rd highest portion. However, Everton are a massive bogey team for Crystal Palace. Everton have beaten them 8 out of the last 10 head-to-heads in the Premier League and losing just 1 of the last 23 head-to-heads in the Premier League against Palace. Difficult one to call. Too much unknowns about Crystal Palace here. So I'm going to say Everton 1, Crystal Palace 1. I'm aware of what the football Sage plays. It's supposed to be attacking, expansive, front-footed, which could be entertaining, but also could see you shipping a few goals as well. Ipswich Town take on Sunderland. Gary O'Neill in the hot seat. Another new manager here. Spending nearly 150 million Ipswich, but I do like their business. Fatawu, Maeda, Lukic, Florentino midfield, even Diop coming in at centre back. I like what they've done there, spending a bit of money sort of in the middle of the pitch, out wide, creativity. Both wingers capable of creativity and goals. Emerson up front, don't know enough about him, but I like a lot of the transfers Ipswich have done. It's different to how they got promoted a couple of years ago, where I feel like they tried to build a bit of a championship dream team. This time round, it feels like they're bringing in Premier League experience. I rate it. Sunderland, not bringing in anyone. Well, they have. They've done a tiny bit of business. But they've got a settled team. They've got a good team. Sunderland were just the 5th side in history to be promoted and get European football via their league place in the Premier League last season. I think this is a tough game for Ipswich. I think it's a tough game for Sunderland as well. I suspect they'll be up against an energetic side. Gary O'Neill will have them ready. It's hard. You don't know what O'Neill you're going to get because he was great with Bournemouth, okay at Wolves, and then terrible at Wolves. If McKenna was in charge, I'd fancy Ipswich to maybe get something from this game, but he's not. And I think this is maybe a bit of a bread and butter for Sunderland and Le Bris. I think this is the type of games that they were winning last season. Brobbey up front, Xhaka in the team. Sunderland are going to be tough. I think you may get an advantage when you come up against them during European games, but that's not where we are right now. I'm going to say Ipswich 1, Sunderland 2. Nottingham Forest hosting Leeds United. Another new manager. Nottingham Forest had 4 managers last season, and none of them are in charge of this game. Oliver Glasner going to the City ground. Leeds United, however, picked up the 7th most points in the league after changing formation last season, but they did only win 2 games away from home in the Premier League, drawing 9 and losing 8. But I think they had a great season. Leeds also getting to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. I've got a lot of hope and maybe unfair expectation on them this season. I feel like a strong end to the window, and they could be outside contenders for European football. But the same applies to Nottingham Forest. I'm a big Oliver Glasner fan. I think he will get them right. I think he'll get them organised. I think they'll be difficult to beat. I think Gibbs White should relish the football under Glasner, as should whichever striker he goes with, whether it be Chris Wood, whether it be Jesus, maybe not so much Lucan, what's his name? Is he still there? I don't know. Need to brush up on my Nottingham Forest transfers out, clearly. But I think Forest have got a really good foundation to work with, and losing Anderson's a big blow. But I think they'll have a good season. But I think they may take a few games to get up to it. Whereas Leeds United just need to continue doing what they were doing last season. I think they've had a really good pre-season on the face of it, with the results, scoring plenty of goals as well. I think this is a difficult game for Forest. I'm going to say Nottingham Forest 1, Leeds United 2. A big result for them to get their season underway. Brentford host Spurs. Brentford, I mean, because of the pre-season expectations, I feel like they've got away with it. I feel like there's been a lot more made up of Everton's poor form at the end of the season in comparison to Brentford's, who were in just as bad form as Everton and were in just arguably a more front-runner position for European football. So they narrowly missed out on it. So over the course of 38 games, I think it was a good season for Brentford under Keith Andrews. But given where they were with 10 games to go and where they finished up, only beating ourselves and Burnley in that time, wasn't really good enough. But this is a new season now, coming up against Spurs, who under De Zerbi won 3, drawn 2 and lost 2 as they survived relegation. I like their defensive transfer business. Don't mind them. Well, actually, I like their central midfield transfer business. Not so keen on their attacking transfer business. Now, at the point of recording, they've not signed Savinho and Marmoush, and that would be a complete game changer to my opinions. Marmoush in particular, I'm a fan of Marmoush. I would have loved him at West Ham a few seasons ago when he was in the Bundesliga. Savinho, I'm not sure on him. At times he looks good, but his returns at City have been poor, but he has been in and out of the team. He's clearly got ability. It needs a home, doesn't he? Is Spurs the home for him? Perhaps so. Tricky fixture, this one, to call, actually. I think Spurs are just a little bit light in attack, so I've struggled to see them scoring more than once. So can Brentford grab a couple of goals here? Thiago, I like the signing of Sangari. I've done a lot of reading and looking at him because of the hype. And I've fallen for the hype before, where I've read other people's opinions on a player. I raise my expectations and they turn out to be a flop. And I feel mugged off because I trusted someone else. So I've refused to do that. Sangari comes with a lot of hype. And I thought, no, I'm not having this. So I've done a lot of reading and looking into him. And I believed the hype myself. I've fallen for it big time. I'm going to say 2-1 Brentford. I think they might get off to a good start here against a side that feels unbalanced in the squad in terms of the strength in certain areas. I just don't think it's ready yet. I think Spurs are too lightweight up front. But like I said, they may change that before the game. But for now, I'm going to go 2-1 Brentford. On to Sunday. Now, Super Sunday is usually a load of BS, isn't it? Right? You can count on one hand over the course of the season how many Super Sundays you've actually felt that you've enjoyed both games. I think there's potential. I think this Super Sunday's got potential. So first of all, we've got Brighton against Aston Villa. 2 managers still in charge of their clubs. I think it's a good time to play Villa. Obviously, Tielemans is gone. Lucadine gone. Morgan Rogers gone. Constant on the verge of joining Arsenal. Martinez on the verge of leaving, if he hasn't at this point. Definitely heading out the door with Suzuki joining. A lot of change in that Aston Villa side. Now, I like the business they're doing, but it's still, you're going to require a little bit of patience here for Unai Emery's side. But Brighton, a lot more settled, and I think that can give you an advantage in the first few weeks of the Premier League season. This fixture last season, I remember it was fun. Finished 4-3 Villa. Brighton were 2-0 up. And then they got beat 4-3. This was a great fixture. Goals is fun, right? When you watch football, you want to see goals. Goals equals fun. And this had it. 7 goals last season. I'm not so sure we're going to see 7 goals. But I think we might see 5. I'm going to say Brighton 3, Aston Villa 2. I'm looking forward to this game. I maybe got a little bit of unfair hope for a goal fest. But I think it's justified knowing what we know about Brighton and Aston Villa. Manchester City take on Bournemouth. 2 new managers in the dugout for this one. One I'm far more familiar with, Enzo Maresca. I like him. But I think Man City, a lot of change there as well. John Stones, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, potentially Savinho, Marmoush. It feels like a lot of players are leaving Man City. And I don't feel like they've done that much business. Obviously, Elliot Anderson, the big signing. But they're going to need a bit more. I've seen Gonzalez linked to Newcastle as well. I quite like him. But I just feel like Maresca's, I don't think he's been given an easy start to life at Man City here. I don't feel like the squad is a title contending squad. If you were to go through it man for man and compare it to Arsenal's, I think Arsenal come well out in front in terms of which player you'd prefer on each team. But even if you were to continue onto the bench, and then you're left with the leftover players. So, for example, let's say left centre back, you pick. Let's just say, for example, you go Gabriel over Gavardio. You go onto the bench, you're thinking, oh, will I have? You probably would. This is a bad example. I picked a bad example here, haven't I? I shall just move on and pretend I never said anything. But my point was, I think there's some players on the bench of Arsenal would get into the first team at Man City. I don't know, Lewis Skelly, for example, might get into the first team at City, but he might be on the bench this weekend for Arsenal. Anyway, I've really botched that point up. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to leave it in and own it. As for Bournemouth under Marco Rose, I'm unsure what to expect, really. So it's difficult for me to really evaluate this, but not too much change from Iraola's squad last season, who came out of that season 18 games unbeaten. Remember, they were fantastic in the second half of the season under Iraola. So I don't think much change is required. If you go in as a manager and you're picking up a team and a squad that's just gone 18 games unbeaten, I would argue you don't need to change much. And we often see managers really benefit from the previous guy's work, and eventually they get exposed. I would argue maybe that's the case with Arne Slot at Liverpool. How much did he benefit from Jurgen Klopp? I would suggest maybe quite a bit. And then it feels like in the second season you start to see the real Arne Slot, the mask slips, and you've got Klopp's impact is gone, and that's what you're left with. So I think at the start you might just see quite a familiar Bournemouth side, and why wouldn't you? Because they were very successful last season. Difficult one to call. Difficult game for Maresca, this. I'm going to say 2-2, just because I'm not that convinced that Man City are ready for the start of the season. Newcastle United hosting Liverpool. I'm intrigued by this one. We've got the new manager derby once again at St James's Park. I'm pleased that this one's the 4:30 on Sunday, because out the 10 Premier League fixtures, this is the one I'm looking forward to watching the most, just to see. I don't even know how you pronounce the new guy's name. Giselles? I don't know. Giselles? I don't know how you spell it. Jaissle. Jaisal? I don't know. I'm sure I'll have to turn the volume up on Sunday when they're saying his name on the commentary. A lot of change at Newcastle as well in the squad. A lot of patience is going to be required. It feels like a transition season for Newcastle United. But just because of everything I've read about the manager, I'm very intrigued. The style of play he's got. He's won, whenever he's been, he's won, including the Asian Champions League. I'm very intrigued by this manager more than, out of all the new managers in the Premier League, he's the one that I'm excited by the most. And also the Newcastle United players. But Iraola, I've got huge expectations for Liverpool this season. Fully expect them being a top four. You know, I think there's a lot of players I can see him enjoying working with. Obviously, he's got Kerkaz there. Van Dijk will be fine under Iraola. Whoever plays next to him, we'll wait and see. I think he might get a tune out of Frimpong if he plays him right back. Right, have Conor Bradley back from injury soon as well. I think either of those would be fine under Iraola. I think Wirtz is the one player that might really benefit. Gakpo should relish playing his football. Isak up front, I think could be fantastic under him. He was a top striker. Bad season, bad injuries, but he's still a top striker. Isak been fit all season, had the World Cup as well, or fit all pre-season, I should say. I'm expecting him to score a lot of goals for Iraola. He's got the advantage of Ekitike being injured. So a lot of change, a lot of big players leaving, like Salah, Robertson, Kanate. Huge personalities. But I think it's a good thing. I think it just allows Iraola to put his stamp on things. I'm going to say 2-1 Liverpool. But yeah, I think if there's any game I'm looking forward to this weekend in terms of what I can learn and what to expect, it's maybe this one. Monday night, we've got Fulham hosting Chelsea, the new manager derby. Again, 3 new manager derbies in a row in the Premier League as Arbeloa takes on Xabi Alonso. And I'm intrigued. Good time to play both teams. I think it's a good time to play Fulham, given the new manager and a few new players in there like Palacios and Garcia. But it's also a good time to play Chelsea, given that Alonso's got 50 players to choose from. Feels a bit mad. Well, it is mad. That's why it feels mad. Because it is. It is madness. Intrigued to see what he can do. It feels like an important job for Alonso, given that his reputation maybe, was at its peak at Leverkusen. He could have picked the job. He could have had Chelsea, Liverpool, Real Madrid. He could have chosen where to go. I think he would have got the pick of the bunch. And I think Cesc Fabregas is maybe in that position. He can just wait at Como and he will get any job he wants when it comes up. Gone to Real Madrid, I understand why he's gone there, but it was just an absolute car crash. I think he needs to repair his reputation a little bit as one of the best young managers in football. I'm not so sure Stamford Bridge is the place to do that, but I'll tell you what, if he's successful at Chelsea, he will repair it and then some. Wow, you went there and you took a hold of that car crash of a football club and you won trophies. But Maresca did it. Maresca won, albeit the Club World Cup, and not everyone pays attention to that, but he tore PSG apart in the final of that competition. I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea, and there is an element of they've got better players about this, and they've got Pedro, who's been in great form in pre-season, and when you've got someone like him, you've got a real opportunity. But Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, there's some real talent at Stamford Bridge. Fernandes is still there, Caicedo. There's a lot of good players for Alonso to work with. He just needs to work out who his main 14, 15 players are, and start binning off the rest and getting them out of the club and getting them away from the club. You don't want to be left with too many that you do not want to be playing. I think that's Chelsea's biggest issue right now. So I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea. Anyway, that's it from me. Get involved in the comments below. Give me your score predictions. Apologies if I've offended you because you support one of these teams. But the good thing with West Ham not being in the league is you cannot accuse me of being biased anymore. Well, you can. When it comes to Spurs and Man U, I will accept it. But as for the other 18... I don't have any agenda here. That's just my honest predictions. Catch you in a bit.